Well, hello and welcome to Qlik Spotlight. My name is John Sands, and today, under the Qlik Spotlight, I have the very great pleasure of having Mark Meersman, who's the managing partner from IPC Global. Welcome, Mark.
Good morning.
Yeah, good afternoon. We're different parts of the globe, so different
No
time
doubt.
zones. So, I mean, I've heard of IPC. I've known them probably as long as I've been at Qlik for, and I know they've been in the Qlik community for a long time. But there will be some people out there that maybe haven't heard of them. So, give us a little overview of both yourself and what you do, and who IPC are.
Yeah, very well. So today we're a 50 plus colleague organization focused on data analytics and cloud solutions. We had chosen some 15 years ago now a Qlik to be a strategic partner of ours, and we prided ourselves year over year to try to be the very, very best in the world at Qlik. So these are the areas we focus on and the technology Qlik. Along with a few others,
Yeah.
AWS for the last 8 or so years, and now Data Robot in the last year.
So what is your role at IPC then, Mark? Let people understand what you do there.
So, multifaceted. I run sales and marketing here at the organization, but I think more importantly, I drive a culture
Mm.
that we've developed over these 20 years of running our firm. And the culture honestly started with a simple motto called customers for life. And
Yeah.
if we sit on the same side of the table and we engage them with technical solutions, with value every day, they'll invite us back. And it was fun yesterday in speaking with our very, very first Qlik customer,
Ah,
the Warnick Company. They
yeah.
still use Qlik today. They still get value out of Qlik, and they would argue it has made a material difference in running their business over these same 15 years.
So the White Company, is that the White Company, the one that do all the bedding for British Airways?
No, actually, it's called the Warnick
Oh, the
Company,
Warnick.
and
Ah, I apologise.
they make the
So what do they do
uh,
then? What do the Warnick Company do?
yeah, they manufacture food. They shelf stable foods primarily. We've all microwaved a dish here and there, right?
Yeah.
But they make that, and really their claim to fame is making meals for our military, meals ready to eat for our
Ah.
military. So, and they're just a great organization on many fronts.
Yeah, well, I'm hoping I was in the military, but many years ago, for in the 80s, and back
Right. So
then,
you
and
probably ate sea rations, right?
well,
So
yeah, 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 yeah. I had those, and the only good biscuits were the one with the raisins in it. So the rest of it
right.
was very, very
That's right.
dry. But yeah, yeah, that was
They've
an
enhanced that a
interesting.
little bit more so now with the
Yeah.
meals. I think there's some 20 some odd different meals that they make ready to eat and have added all the things you'd expect, including some flavors. So,
Oh, nice, nice. I'm
yeah,
glad to hear that. So, okay, so I mean, I've known IPC, and for all the time I've been at Qlik now, what, 13 years. So you've actually been at
right.
Qlik for longer than I have. So
We've
what
been
kind
here a
of
while.
changes have you seen? I mean, I look back and I look at ClickView. I mean, my first version I knew was actually ClickView version 5 because I worked with a partner
Nice.
as well. And what
Yeah.
changes have you seen in that time between where we are now, both on a company basis and on a software basis within the years that you've been working with Qlik?
Well, I've been so thankful, first of all, Click as a partnership, but moreover, your continued investment
Mm.
in the technology. You've invested on all fronts, and then that very bold decision to take this core and put it truly in a web-based application has
Yeah.
been dramatic. So what we've done, and I would argue many partners done, is how do we take that incredible capability, deliver it to the customers, and where Click has decided or are unable maybe to fill in a gap,
Yeah.
how do we do that? And so we have been a partner on many fronts. We're an OEM partner in a small way, but never
Mm.
we fill in Click where it's not. But I've loved the investment to answer your question.
Yeah, and but I've certainly seen that, and I think with the way that the industry has gone and the way that the software has gone, it is amazing. I mean, and you found, and I'm sure you find this, you get so many loyal followers of ClickView, and people still love that, don't they? They still love that
They
technology.
do.
But where we've gone now with ClickSense, and also going into subscription is has been a real game changer. And has this been an area where you think as a partner, because let's be honest, you're not going to sit down and say everything that Qlik has done we agree with. And there's bound to be sometimes issues. Has that subscription side been somewhere you have seen as a good move or not?
I do. I think the
Mm.
subscription, it gives us more pricing options. Actually calling the licenses what they are, which is
Yeah.
professional, analyzer, and now even capacity. Those
Mm.
are great things, and they're great for the customers who need to scale up and down, and it's great for us as partners who are trying to deliver that into the
Yeah, yeah. I
market.
mean, I do
So,
remember the days of document cows and all that that entailed and so on. So yeah,
right.
it's good to see that that's happening. Now, one of the things that is a real strength at IPC, and I know you concentrate heavily on this, is using Qlik as a data warehouse. So explain what you do and how that happens within IPC.
Yes, certainly. Um, well, I guess one of the things that's really important is a theme, a virtue, I should say, here at
Yeah.
IPC Global, which is humility. And at IPC Global, what that means is twofold. One, people that are humble listen. And the reason why I bring that up is we were listening to the market and they
Mm.
were telling us two things. We are using Qlik as a data warehouse.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, and the other thing is get behind and lift up other people around you to though they can be better. And so
Yeah, yeah.
we got behind some ideas our customers had and implemented Qlik as a data warehouse. So I mean it in a couple ways.
Mm.
Qlik in and of itself naturally has some data warehouse capabilities. It has the ability to connect to multiple data sources. It has the ability to read and transform in ClickScript that data into other data. It has the ability to persist that data
Mm.
into reusable data tables. We call them data objects, and those data objects can be used in many of data models. So what is the comparable in traditional data warehousing?
Yeah.
The traditional is an ETL tool, dare I say, Informatica, that can
Mm.
read and transform and write and persist. And it persists into what typically is a relational database. What's funny about data warehousing and relational databases is when we build data warehouses, we turn off the word relational. We don't
Mm.
use that feature because it's used for transactional systems where SQL and Oracle, et cetera, had grown up. And so what we do with Qlik is literally persist hundreds and sometimes thousands of data tables, QVDs, in a format that can then be consumed downstream.
Yeah.
Downstream is what the database engines do in stored procedures and views. But Qlik beats that in spades with its associative data model.
Yeah, of course,
So
of
we
course.
can take n number of reusable data objects and read them into a data model, and Qlik auto generates the indexes and views, we call them hypercubes,
Hmm.
over that data. And so we were implementing, and we put that challenge out there. We've closed down a number of Oracle data warehouses
Oh, good.
and turned off that, and Qlik literally paid for itself simply
Hmm.
using some of these, advanced implementation techniques.
Yeah, and that's something. And back in my pre-sales days at Qlik, I remember that the whole QVD and the data layer and so on, and how that was used was, and you've really seen that now and grasped, which is fantastic. Now you
And one of
mentioned
the
data.
things we did, John, I think
Yeah,
is important is this. There's a term in the marketplace we've owned for a long time called a data warehouse. And what
yeah, yeah.
if everybody in their mind could picture walking
Mm.
into a warehouse and if things are racked and stacked and organized. That's true. And data warehousing organizes data that way. A new term came along called a data lake.
Yeah.
And what was interesting about a data lake is you just pumped all your data in there, and isn't it great? We actually, with Qlik, use a term called a data store. All of
Yeah.
these are under the DMSA or data warehouse definition in general, but very specifically, warehouses and lakes don't compete very well with stores for this reason.
Mm.
Going into a data warehouse, you need a technical person to go into the warehouse with you and get data out.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Going into a data lake is really messy because all this data is swimming around in there and
Mm.
it's very difficult actually to get it out. So, for self service, which is the modern thing, warehouses and lakes are a challenge.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
say a data store. When we go into a data store, the data is nicely labeled, it's packaged, it's got all of the quality that you'd expect when you go into a
Mm.
store, and our people are able to shop or self-service themselves with that data.
That's very
And that's
important, isn't
why
it?
Qlik, when we
Self-service. Yeah.
produce these reusable data objects, they're not just a copy of a table, but
Hmm.
all of the labeling and the naming, etc., are ready for the users to shop.
Yeah, yeah. And as I was saying, that's very important, the self-service side, and that's one thing that Qlik, and I've certainly noticed that, is you don't have to be a data scientist to create a QBD in the first place. You have to know a bit of scripting, but you don't have to have a huge brain to do that. So it
That's right.
brings back that to the business rather than having to go through IT all the time.
That's right, for
Yeah.
sure.
Now, one of the other things, and you mentioned data robot a little while ago, and AI for us and at Qlik as well is becoming increasingly important. So, what is IPC's approach to delivering this to your customers?
So whether it's Qlik or AWS or Data Robot, we
Mm,
pick the best in the market, and Data Robot is the best in the
yeah,
machine learning marketplace. And so that in and of itself, for customers who want to predict the future of whatever that might be, both in predictive and now we're even getting into prescriptive. Can the
yeah,
machine
yeah.
make a recommendation as it relates to this? And so that in and of itself is great. We're leveraging our core competency, as I just spoke about, the data store, because that data in the store is what we
Mm,
use to feed Data Robot. So with the Data Robot connector you all produced, and we've enhanced that using the Data Robot APIs, we
yeah,
can not only train Data Robot with Qlik, but we can automate the training and the retraining
I
so
see.
the data model continues to get better in whatever it's predicting.
Yeah, because it has to have that data to learn, doesn't it? If it can't learn,
It,
it's not going to work. Now, are you finding within your experience at IPC, are you finding a particular type of customers are asking for this, or is it across the board?
so it is across the board, but I find it interesting. I wouldn't have predicted that the marketing and sales organizations
Hmm.
seem to be the first to raise their hand.
Oh,
The
okay.
first, they are dealing with the market and all of the complexities of
Hmm.
their market, and so I find them to be the first to raise their hand. However, we've used operational analytics, financial analytics, things of that nature.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, and another thing to also to press home here is you often hear this about artificial intelligence, about losing jobs and they're going to take over the world, all that kind of thing. But it is really around augmented, isn't it? So you can't take away the human input. You have to have that as well to first do a sanity check and to teach the robot in the first place.
You do. You
Mm.
do. And interesting, you take the robot and you actually focus its eyes, if you will,
Yeah.
on a particular thing. We, with our augmented intelligence, we have peripheral vision. We've got the
Mm.
ability to change. Again, a feature of Qlik and of Data Robot is speed.
Yeah.
We, back in the ClickView days, used to talk about throwaway BI. Build it and see if it's valuable and if it's not.
Yeah.
And because it only took me hours or days, it
Yeah.
didn't matter. And that's true for Data Robot as well. I can go and tell the machine this afternoon to learn something, test it, bring it back to the stakeholders, and see if there's real value there for them.
Hmm. Yeah, I use an analogy around photography on this. The fact that back in the days of film, you'd have to be careful with the film you used, and you'd then have to take the
Right.
photograph. It would have to be developed, and then you'd get it in, and you'd say, "Well, that's no good. I need to do it again." Whereas now with digital photography and with things like AI, we can just run that and test it again and again and again without having to worry about that side. So it's a fascinating industry and technology. So we're
Yeah.
missing out one. I think one last chunk we're missing out here. So we're talking about, artificial intelligence. We're talking about data warehouses, data lakes, and the way that IPC do that. But one of the most important things, and again, another focus in Qlik, is for any of this to work, we need to understand that data. And one of the things that we do at Qlik is around the data literacy. So what's your take on that? How do you see that helping?
So data literacy is super important. It's a term we're using regularly during the sales cycle and certainly in
Mm,
implementations. And like literacy, you have to learn to read. And it's very
yeah.
tough to learn to read without showing them. And thus, the visual capabilities and the discovery capabilities of Qlik are the best in the world.
Mm,
And so,
yeah.
what we're able to do is show them their data. One of the things is that the market is good at responding to now is let us come in, read much all of your data, show it to you, and then we'll work